the birth of Isaac and Hagar being thrown out. As he'd said, and God did to Sarah as he'd spoken. Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age. So don't forget that she was about 90, over 90, and Abraham was about 100. That's older than Nana. A lot older than Nana. So this really was a miracle, and they hadn't quite had the faith in it that they should have had, because they'd told lies, hadn't they, when he said, oh, she's my sister, she's not my wife, because he was frightened someone else might marry her. They'd had all these weaknesses, and yet God still used them. So Abraham called his son, who was born of him, Isaac, which means laughter. They were so happy. Can you imagine? She'd never had a child, and now she had one. Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God had told him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Sarah said, God has made me laugh. Everyone who hears will laugh with me, and that's how we feel. We should rejoice with those that rejoice, Paul says. So you think of an old lady who'd never had a child, and now in her very old age she has a child, and we can imagine her joy. She said, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children, for I have borne him a son in his old age. The child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, laughing at them. Now you remember, when they didn't have enough faith, Abraham and Sarah, they thought, this seed that we keep being promised, well, Abraham, he could just have a child by his servant girl, Hagar. And they did that, but that wasn't what God wanted. And now that Isaac's been born, this boy Ishmael, who'd been born to Hagar, was now a teenager and was now getting older. And so when Hagar started mocking Sarah, you old lady just had a child, I've had children well before you did, Sarah said to Abraham, cast out this handmaid, this servant, and her son, for the son of this handmaid will not be heir with my son Isaac. The thing was very grievous in Abraham's eyes because of his son. God said to Abraham, don't let it be grievous in your sight because of the boy and because of your handmaid. Listen to Sarah's voice, for in Isaac will your seed be called. I will also make a nation of the son of Hagar, because he also is your seed. Abraham rose up early in the morning, took bread and a bottle of water, and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, and gave her the child, and sent her away. She departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. The water in the bottle finished, and she cast the child under one of the bushes. She went and sat down opposite him, quite a way off, as far as you could shoot an arrow from a bow. She said, let me not see the death of the child. She sat opposite him and lifted up her voice and cried. God heard the voice of the boy. So, if you think you're too little for God to hear you, God heard the voice of the boy Ishmael. So don't think that God doesn't listen to little people. He does. And the angel of God called to Hagar out of the sky and said to her, what's the matter, Hagar? Don't be afraid, for God has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Get up, lift up the boy, and hold him in your arm, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. She went, filled the bottle with water, and gave the boy drink. God was with the boy, and he grew. He lived in the desert, and as he grew up, he became an archer. He lived in the wilderness of Paran. His mother took a wife for him out of the land of Egypt. And that is one of the beginnings of all the arguments between Jews and Arabs. The Jews come from the line of Isaac, where the seed, the promised seed, came from, and the Arabs come from, or some of the Arabs come from this line of Ishmael through Hagar. Now, that doesn't really matter now, because we're told in Galatians and the New Testament that whoever is baptized, whether they're Jew, Gentile, whoever they are now the true seed of Abraham. So it's not, as Paul says, by the flesh. It doesn't matter what colour your skin is or whether you're Jew or Arab. All the same, we all need Jesus, and we can all become the true seed of Abraham by faith in him. About this time, Abimelech and Phicol, the captain of his army, spoke to Abraham, saying, God is with you in all that you do. So promise me here by God that you will not deal badly with me, nor with my son or my grandson. But according to the kindness that I have done to you, you shall do to me and to the land in which you have lived as a foreigner. So then, although Abraham had been promised that he would inherit all this land, he lived in it as if he was a foreigner. And that's just like we do, that we're in this world, but we don't quite fit in. And we will inherit this earth when Jesus comes back, and then the kingdom of God will be established, and we will be the rulers of the earth. But at the moment, we're just passing through it like foreigners, like strangers in our own land. So Abraham agreed, and he promised to Abimelech. But then Abraham had to reprove Abimelech because of a well of water, which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. They said, that's our well, and Abraham knew it was his well. Abimelech said, I don't know who has done this. You didn't tell me, neither did I hear of it before, only now. Abraham took sheep and cattle and gave them to Abimelech, and those two made a covenant. Now, Abraham could have said, it's my well, don't tell lies. But instead, he actually gives a present to Abimelech, when Abimelech, in a sense, was in the wrong. And that's what this Abimelech, or the person called Abimelech, did to Abraham. You remember we read that Abraham lied to Abimelech about Sarah, his wife, and Abimelech was going to marry her. But God stopped him. And then afterwards, Abimelech gives Abraham 1,000 pieces of silver. And he did that as we should do. When someone does wrong to you, you do something nice to them, not hit them back. Someone scratches you, so you punch them. No. Someone scratches you, so you give them something nice or kiss them. This is the great challenge to be truly Christian.
Well, you could just walk away.
Well, you could just walk away, but the example of Abraham to Abimelech and Abimelech to Abraham is going beyond that. It's actually doing something kind and nice to someone who's done something nasty to you. So they made a covenant, an agreement. Abraham set 7 lambs of the flock by themselves, and Abimelech said to Abraham, what do these 7 lambs mean? Abraham said, you take these 7 lambs from my hand, that it may be a witness to me that I did dig this well. So he called that place Beersheba, the well of the oath, because they both promised there. So they made a covenant at Beersheba. Abimelech rose up with Phicol, the captain of his army, and they returned into the land of the Philistines.
So he had a captain for his army?
Abimelech did, yes.
Oh, I thought it was Abraham.
No, Abimelech. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba and called there on the name of Yahweh, the everlasting God. Abraham lived as a foreigner in the land of the Philistines many days. So again, Abraham lived as a foreigner. This is why in the New Testament it keeps talking about this, that Abraham lived as if he was just passing through, even though it was all his. And this is how we are to live in this world, waiting for Jesus to come back and for us to live forever in the kingdom and to have the real inheritance then.